Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Amateur Hour Sports YouTube channel for today's off-season live stream. First time this first time since the Raptors were eliminated from, well, they were eliminated earlier. Let's start over. First time since the season ended for the Toronto Raptors that we're doing an off-season stream specifically focused on content around the Raptors. We've done these watch parties already. We've done other stuff, but what we're focusing on today is the Toronto Raptors, covering the latest news for today. Going to be live for about an hour. A few things specific that I want to talk about. We're going to talk about Bruce Brown in a little bit of detail. We're going to talk about the entire current Raptors roster, seeing what their future may hold and whether or not that is going to be with the team, with this team. And we're also going to be talking about a mock trade that I saw that, well, has me a little bit rattled once again. But along the way, I'll answer any and all most questions that the chat wants to throw my way. So anything that you have that you want to discuss for today, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and I will do my best to get to all of it. And typically, I would say I do get to all of it. But hope everybody's having a great week. Not doing a watch party tonight, number one, because I don't really want to stream for 3 hours again. Number two, the Maple Leafs are playing. As you can see, I'm donning my Toronto Maple Leafs attire. I'm wearing my Austin Matthews jersey, even though I believe he is not playing today. There's the 34. New York Giants hat. I don't have a Leafs hat, but it's blue. So, yeah, switching sides on the Toronto sports space for today. Hopefully you can forgive me. The Maple Leafs Game 5 win has made me believe again. You know, that's what they do. That's what they do to you. Game 4 ends. I'm thinking, series is done. Fuck this shit. Excuse my language. Game 5 rolls around and you go, I don't care. They could lose and I wouldn't care. And you know what? That was true. They could have lost and I wouldn't have cared. Now they won. Now they're at home for Game 6. Now they're a game away from a Game 7. They're making me believe again. It'll be upsetting if they lose today. But they are slight underdogs as a result of Austin Matthews not being available. Just going to double check on that. Go Leafs. Agreed, Isaac. Love the Leafs, baby. Hit a home run. By the way, volume levels. I played with a bit of volume settings. Let me know if volume settings are good for the stream. If they're a little bit quiet, then let me know. Let me know. Marchand, can't disagree with that. You know, it's just... It feels shitty. It feels like the Raptors and Cleveland days. It just... You know, honestly, not quite. The Raptors in Cleveland, I wouldn't call it a rivalry. They owned us, for sure. The thing about, like, the Raptors and the Cavaliers in the LeBronto era was just, like, you just shrug your shoulders and go, what could we have done? You know, the Raptors could play amazing, and then LeBron would score, like, 40 points and they'd win. You play lockdown defense on LeBron, he hits an off-balance floater off the glass as the buzzer goes. You play really well, JV misses 3 layups under the rim at the buzzer. You know, it was just like, what are we supposed to do? You know, DeMar DeRozan sitting in the press conference saying, what was the exact quote? Like, any of you guys know how to guard LeBron or something like that? Whereas with the Leafs in the Boston, you know, very much a lot of it has been in the control of the Leafs over the last, I mean, wow, how many years is it since the 4-1? Was that 2013? So, yeah, the Leafs very much have had things in their hand in that time, in this time frame. You know, they were winning in a Game 7 a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, but probably like 2-1. But like this series, they're 1 of 16 on the power play. Their goaltending sucked for much of the series. You know, things could have been avoided. Whereas the Raptors, not much they could have done. Anyways, let's get on to what we got for today. But first of all, well, let's not get on. Let's talk to the people in chat. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Had an eventful Thursday. This week's going well. You know, I'm feeling good about this week. Got some unfortunate news about my apartment, which sucks. Gonna have to move out of my apartment at some point in the next 6 months or so. It's okay. We'll find a new place, but I really like this apartment, so that's a bit of a shame. We'll find a new spot. I'll still be in Toronto. I'll still be downtown Toronto. Probably not far from where I am right now, but that's a bit of a shame. But other than that, it's been a pretty good week. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying your week as well. Happy belated birthday to Samaya in chat. Believe it was their birthday yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. But happy belated nonetheless. Hope you're doing well. Sumaya, one of the members in the community. Another member joining us is Nick Killer Reggie Miller, a.k.a. Thomas Perry. Thank you so much for joining once again. Winner one, also back for this one. And Doug B., one of the stream OGs, another one of our members out here for today's stream. We also have Isaac Thompson, big Leafs fan, in chat. What's going on, Isaac? Thank you for joining. Van City Larry is here as well. And we got Payne in chat. Payne, possibly what I'll be feeling around 11 p.m. Eastern time at the conclusion of the Leafs and Bruins game. Question from Sumaya. Where do you see the Raptors in 3 years? Starting off with a bit of a doozy. So 3 years' time, I'm thinking Scotty Barnes will have at least one more All-Star appearance under his belt. And I think he'll have solidified himself as one of like the stars of the league. I'm hoping quickly an RJ Barrett develop to the point where they're really complementing that level of talent. I hope, Grady Dick is a good role player. I hope we filled out the roster a little bit with draft picks, specifically, hopefully from this year. And along the way, I feel as though the Raptors should be like a comfy playoff team in the sense of they're finishing 4th, 5th, 6th area and not really having to sweat a play-in tournament or sweat going to the season, hey, is this team even going to make the playoffs? I just want a nice, solidified, comfortable playoff team at that time. I struggle to imagine this team trending upwards as a perennial contender. You're just going to need to strike gold on a draft pick in order for that to happen, likely, unless Scotty Barnes really takes on completely unreal heights and becomes a near MVP quality player, which I'm not going to rule out. But realistically, I see this team as a comfortable playoff team in 3 years. Dale Berry Sports Highlights, what's going on? Thank you so much for joining. It's been, like I said, good week. I've had a fun week here. I don't know. I just feel good this week. I don't know what it is. This week hasn't felt like a drag in any way whatsoever. I think it's because the NBA is just cooling off. There's less in my head around the NBA. It's just, okay, we're down to half the teams. And we're still trimming down on a daily basis. It's just becoming a whole lot more comfortable for my daily business. And I think I'm really beyond the NBA season and beyond the Raptors. So not having all of that on my plate is kind of just a nice breath of fresh air in the sense. Van City Larry says I can see all-stars, 3 all-stars in our current roster. I don't really buy it for RJ Barrett or Emmanuel Quickley. I think they have the ability to be all-stars, but if I had to say whether or not they will be one day, I'd probably lean they won't be, but I'm not going to put it past them. Absolutely not going to put it past them. Actually, interestingly, I had a poll yesterday on the channel where I asked what RJ Barrett's ceiling could be, and the largest portion of votes went to NBA All-Star, 47%. Although I feel like perennial All-Star and All-NBA were kind of similar. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but you need to see. But NBA All-Star was the most selected category. There you go. That's how I feel. Oh, not that screen. I probably would go for, well, his ceiling is you know what? His ceiling is All-Star. That's the correct answer. His ceiling is an all-star. His realistic level is a fringe all-star, but he is his ceiling is definitely all-star. I cannot see him being year to year an all-star, all NBA. Do you see Quick reaching Tyrese Maxey or not? It can't really say yes. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is at an all NBA level. I'm just checking what he averaged this season. He's only 23. He averaged 26 points a game this season. Just confirming that. 26 points. Won the MIP, 6 assists, efficient shooting. I struggle to see quickly just increasing his volume and still maintaining this really high degree of play. Oftentimes with additional volume, you suffer a little bit in terms of your efficiency. Well, I mean, Tyrese Maxey's efficiency dropped a little bit. I don't know. I cannot really see it. Is my answer. I would love it. It's just Tyrese Maxey was unbelievably good this season, right? That's the thing. But again, I'm not going to put it past him. I don't have like I'm not really setting limits for these guys. I'm just trying to be like realistic as possible. Gio this says if the Raptors keep Bruce Brown, how much cap space do they have before the luxury tax? I actually am not 100% sure what the cap space specifically is going to look like. But a large portion of the cap space, it's tough to say right now because a large portion of the cap space, or at least a good amount, will be dependent on the NBA draft. If the Raptors are selecting in the top 6, that top 6 player is guaranteed a certain amount of money. If they are not selecting the top 6, well, that money is not going towards that rookie player. So I guess more of the salary space would open up as a result. So for right now, Bruce Brown, we'll go further in on it, but the draft is a bit dependent on it. RJ could become dangerous with a jump shot. I'm not really looking for RJ to develop a jump shot, to be honest. I'm personally like, you know me, if you do know me, you know I'm pretty against like mid-range shots. I'd rather him just work on other stuff and not have to worry about the mid-range jumper. And people say when you're hitting certain levels, you got to have that in your bag. But let's perfect other stuff. Let's become 10 out of 10 at 3-and-D and slashing before you start worried about the mid-range jumper. You know what I mean? Giovanni says, only way Bruce Brown moved for first is if a second apron team like Heat, Warriors, or apron teams like Pelicans, Kings want to shed salary by trading for Bruce Brown and waiving him. I actually completely disagree. And while we're talking about Bruce Brown, why don't we just get started on the segment here where we are going to be discussing what's going on here, because there's so many questions surrounding Bruce Brown right now and what the Raptors should be planning for him in the offseason. Let's try to clear everything up here. So if you don't know the current situation for Bruce Brown, coming off of a decently underwhelming stretch with the Toronto Raptors, let's be honest here. When he arrived towards the NBA trade deadline, he was an involvement in the Pascal Siakam trade. And really, the way it went down for this trade, Bruce Brown was thrown in for salary. I don't know if the Indiana Pacers really wanted to trade him. It felt like they would have been comfortable to have him on their team, but Bruce Brown was making over $20 million. They felt as though the only way to realistically get into a range where they're actually going to be able to salary match for Pascal Siakam was including him in the trade. That was not really, a sort of piece that the Raptors were looking for to acquire in this trade. The Raptors were looking for some first-round picks, and they got 2 first-round picks for this year. They got another first-round pick, a conditional one for 2026. The first-round picks that they got for this year was the Indiana Pacers pick, first of all, which is going to be 19th overall. And it was what ended up being the Oklahoma City Thunder pick, 29th overall. The Raptors flipped that 29th overall pick in a great move to get Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji. A fantastic trade, looking at where that pick ended up at 29th overall, as I said. But on Bruce Brown, was kind of thrown into the deal. But it was a little bit exciting for myself because I'm a big fan of Bruce Brown. I have been a big fan of Bruce Brown for a while now. I've long said that he'd be a fantastic addition to the Raptors. That was more so in the Nick Nurse days where, the offense was extremely switchable and very defensive-minded for the team. That wasn't really the case this year. But nonetheless, I was excited to have Bruce Brown on the team because the Raptors needed that sort of ability. The Raptors needed that sort of defense. But unfortunately, they just did not get the best of Bruce Brown at all. Not even really close to it. Bruce Brown was coming off of an NBA championship season with the Denver Nuggets where he had performed so well. He had been, I think, a real key piece of that NBA championship as a sixth man for that team, largely through the playoffs. And, you got a guy who can score a little bit, can hit decent amount of threes, but do a lot of the dirty work and be a good defender and be switchable despite being, I think he's 6'4". 6'4", still switchable, can play above his size. Decent start to the season with the Indiana Pacers. Then he comes to the Raptors and maybe isn't really himself anymore. The stats don't really tell the full tale. He shot 48% from the field, 32% from three, just under 10 points per game. Watching him, it just did not feel like he had the same sort of effect that we would have expected from the player. Perhaps a lot of that was down to what he was making from a salary perspective. Coming in as a $22 million player, perhaps there are some certain expectations that are there. But Bruce Brown, after the season, said and revealed that he had been playing through an injury for a lot of the second half of the season. And I don't know how much I want to buy that, but it was very clear that we were not getting the Bruce Brown that we were expecting to get in Toronto, which made things a little bit sour for Raptors fans. He became a bit of a, maybe I won't go as far as to call him a hated player, but he was disliked and blamed for a lot of poor results because he didn't play well. And honestly, a lot of times he did not play well. So much so that, asking, will Bruce Brown be on the Raptors roster for the first game of next season, the 2024-2025 season, a resounding 77% of you in the community. Granted, his poll's only been up for 5 hours, only 611 votes. We should get to over 1,000 votes tomorrow, but I don't see the results of this poll changing in any ways. 77% of voters say that Bruce Brown will not be on the roster for the first game of next season. And even though maybe fans don't want Bruce Brown to be on the roster for the first game of next season, I believe, should Bruce Brown be on the roster to start next season? Probably not. Will Bruce Brown be on the roster to start next season? The answer is probably. And this is where it becomes a little bit difficult. This is where the situation becomes maybe slightly problematic for the Raptors. Because I remember when Bruce Brown signed this contract. I remember exactly. I was doing a live stream for the beginning of NBA free agency. Bruce Brown signed with the Pacers, and then we saw the figure. Holy crap. $45 million over 2 years. That is a monster overpay from the Indiana Pacers. And it was. But the thing about it was that the second year was a team option worth $23 million. So essentially, I looked at that contract and went, nobody's paying Bruce Brown $23 million. That's essentially a one-year contract for Bruce Brown. He just decided to get his money, get it up front, coming off a championship. And props to him, power to him. Now, almost a year later, we're looking at that contract like, well, a year ago I was saying that's a one-year contract. Now I'm saying the Raptors are probably going to take that team option and keep Bruce Brown in town. This is where the difficult situation becomes into play for the Raptors here because they weren't getting the best out of Bruce Brown. And part of the difficulties when they acquired him, they were definitely looking to flip him. Bruce Brown is a player who can help a contender. Bruce Brown is very much a player that raises your ceiling, and he raises your ceiling for a good team a lot more than he can raise the floor of a bad team. He's a complementary piece. He fills in the cracks of your roster. But as far as being the piece that's going to propel you forward from a lower position, that's not really his type of game. So the Raptors absolutely were looking to move him. The contract, the money makes that maybe a little bit difficult to do. But the sticking point was teams were willing to trade picks in 2024. The Raptors already had picks for 2024, and the wide consensus about the 2024 NBA draft class is that it's not the best draft class that we've ever seen. The Raptors were focused on getting picks for 2025. Those were not forthcoming. There were offers in place, likely first-round picks, but if the first-round pick was being offered, it was for 2024. The Raptors weren't getting what they wanted, so they decided they had the flexibility to be patient here. There was no rush. They'll keep him for the rest of the season. And as for the summer, they have the option to let him walk for free, which would not be great for asset management. So what they can do is take the team option, possibility of signing and trading on that team option they can exercise, the club option they can exercise. They can wait a little bit, get towards the next NBA trade deadline, maybe find a first-round pick for 2025. Maybe Bruce Brown gets healthy. Maybe he's playing a whole lot better, and you can kind of upgrade his value a little bit. But even without that, people know how good Bruce Brown is. People know what he brings to NBA teams. People know the value he has on a contender. I still believe there's a market out there for Bruce Brown. So what the Raptors alternatively have the option of doing is not taking on that team option, but still signing him to a new contract. Does Bruce Brown have a desire to lock in a 4-year deal rather than take a 1-year deal at $23 million? Perhaps the Raptors can negotiate a 4-year deal, a 3-year deal. That can be signed and traded. That can be traded in 6 months' time. And if not, look, Bruce Brown, I know, we're a bit sour on the way he played in Toronto over the last few months of the season. But if the injury was genuine and we're getting a healthy Bruce Brown next season, that's a good player that's going to help this team. And this team wants to be a playoff team. And as long as he's here, he can help the team. And as long as he's here, the Raptors have the option and ability to trade him. He seems comfortable in his position. He doesn't seem like he's wanting to move. He doesn't seem like he doesn't like to be here. He doesn't seem like he doesn't want to be here. And in fact, an interesting post from Bruce Brown yesterday highlighted missing Canada a little bit. Posting on his Instagram story, I'm going to be honest, I miss getting Tim Hortons every morning. Now, I don't drink coffee. From what I've heard, Tim Hortons coffee is not the best coffee. But hey, longing to be in Toronto, longing to be in Canada, if we get a healthy Bruce Brown who has never showed a desire not to be here, really, we understood that the situation in Toronto wasn't really where he wanted to be from a team perspective. He wanted to be challenging. He wanted to be back in the playoff picture, but seems comfy in Toronto, seems to get along well with his teammates. So in the worst case scenario for the Raptors, they have another opportunity at the next trade deadline to trade him. And surely, from my perspective, there were going to be teams interested in taking him. So for this summer, honestly, it'd be a little bit surprising to me if the Raptors were able to flip him right away. I think that the most realistic outcome is the Raptors just hang on to him for a little bit, try to move him, and see what they can get. And I think if they are going to keep him, it's probably going to be that team option, but I won't rule out signing him on a longer-term deal and adding more flexibility to what the Raptors can do with him going forward. They're not going to lose him for nothing. The situation has become difficult, but I don't think the Raptors have really backed themselves down in a corner here necessarily. Well, maybe they have, but they haven't dug themselves a hole. It's not an ugly position to be in. They're going to be patient. They're going to be measured, and ultimately I think they'll come out on top in this whole situation when it comes to Bruce Brown. It's a bit difficult, but hey, they are being patient. We'll see if all that work and everything that they've tried to do with this pays off. What do you guys feel? I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay on this. Feel Brown tanked any value may have had at that price tag with his play in Indiana and Toronto. I don't know. I just don't really agree. I think people know how good he is, and it wasn't even that bad in Toronto. The injury thing, I agree, Stender, Frats, that maybe we don't really buy that, but settled in. I expect better from him next season. You get 5,000 votes on average. Do I get? No, I don't get 4,000. Usually polls get 1,000 to 2,000 votes, I think. If it's the height of the summer draft era, it was 3,000-4,000. Let's see. Yeah, the average poll, yeah. Oh no, I guess they get a bit more sometimes. 22 to 2,500 on average, let's say. Giovanni says, I think it depends if the Spurs get the Raptors pick. I can see the Raptors taking a 2024 pick in the teens if they lose the 6th pick. I can see. I'm not sure how that. Maybe that was from something else. He has no trade value now. Just don't take the second year, let him walk. That's no. Why would you lose him for nothing? You're not gonna. You're not gonna lose him for nothing. That's not the case. And if you are going to lose him for nothing, you're going to get another year out of his play. I think it's pretty much a 0% chance that he walks for free this summer. Just do not see that happening. I won't say 0 because I can see the Raptors going, let's save money. We're not building with Bruce Brown. Less than 5% chance they let him walk. I disagree. I also disagree that he has no trade value. Pretty strongly disagree with that. Talking about being a Tibbs kind of player, want to go to New York at the deadline, soured me, even beyond the lack of production on the floor. The thing about that comment was the Raptors were actively shopping him. He understood his situation, so did the Raptors. I can see you're here, keep that to yourself, but come on, the Raptors were pretty open about wanting to trade him as well. So it was not like we were really doing a great job of hiding things, you know what I mean? And Full Ass says after he made a comment about missing Tim Hortons, I'm sure he stays. Look, I'm not saying he's staying for the Tim's coffee. I am saying he doesn't mind being in Toronto, which apparently a lot of The stigma is that people don't like playing in Toronto. Everyone who does play in Toronto likes playing in Toronto. You know what I mean? The Knicks offered the Dallas 2024 pick. Yeah, the Raptors wanted a 2025 pick. That was a sticking point. They didn't want another pick this year, right? Masai seems to have a preference for forwards over guards. That's for damn sure. Switchable players. That's what it is. It'd be a late first rounder. I agree, but he's got value to get that. You can get a pick in the 20s for next year, I think. If the Spurs get the Raptors 2024 pick because of Larry Bell. I can see the Raptors trading down for a 2024 first. So they have 2 picks. I don't think so. They traded one. I don't think, though. I think they're just going to be happy with wherever they're taking. Anyways, on Bruce Brown, let's shift over into the entire Toronto Raptors roster. There's certainly some conversations about whether or not Bruce Brown will be here next season, but the conversations go beyond just Bruce Brown. They go to the entire roster. So let's go through everybody and determine how likely it should be for them to stay or leave throughout this NBA offseason. We're going to go through each of the players on this team individually here. I might be guilty here of going through too many categories. We have 7 different tiers here to rank on this tier list. We have the locks, the very likely staying, the probably staying, the 50-50, which I'm not sure, the probably gone, the very likely gone, and the straight up not going to be here. Not going to be here. And there's at least one player who's going into that category. So let's get started here. Going in the random order that tier maker has assigned me, we're going to start with Gary Trent Jr. This is a difficult one. You know what's great? We're starting off with a difficult one. Gary Trent Jr., I genuinely think he likes playing in Toronto. I think he likes it here. He seems in a good headspace, which he wasn't when he was playing in the Western Conference, he wasn't when he was playing with Portland. I think he likes it here. Financially, I can see the Raptors not wanting to lose yet another player for nothing. Hopefully, Gary Trent kind of respectfully understands his position and how he performed this season, not just how he finished the season. But in trying to keep this going, my gut's telling me he probably stays. I'm close to giving him a 50-50, but I think a deal is going to get worked out, and Gary Trent probably stays at the end of the day. Garrett Temple is a player I've kind of switched on because it's very clear from the offseason that Raptors players loved having Garrett Temple on the team. Is that worth a roster spot? Is that worth a $3 million salary, whatever it was? To me, maybe not, but I'm not there on the inside. He's gotten glowing comments from teammates. I have another player here, once again, going into the probably staying category. If Garrett Temple's not going to retire, I don't know. It seemed like he got on with the players, coming back for another year. There's probably other teams who want that sort of vet presence. Now I'm talking myself out of it a bit. Because if other teams want that vet presence, maybe he moves to 50-50. I'll go with my gut and say probably staying. Probably staying. On to Emmanuel quickly. Pretty much a lock, but because he's a restricted free agent and there's a potential for another team to throw him a big offer, very likely staying. Probably should be a lock, but just because of the very small, but there are questions about his restricted free agency, let's toss him into the very likely staying category. Now, another difficult player here, Jakob Poeltl. The difficulty for Poeltl is a lot of people want him gone. I don't know. For Raptors fans, you guys want this team to be better next season, to make the playoffs next season. Jakob Poeltl is a quality NBA starting center. A very good defender, good on offense, connects the offense pretty well with his passing. We saw how much of an impact he made on the team when he wasn't there. He's a great player. Nick Claxton, I think, is a pipe dream. So, Jakob Poeltl on $20 million a year, I think that's great value for 3 more years. If he has a desire to be here, I don't see the sense in trading for him. What center are you going to be able to get for that money who brings this value to the team? And for people saying you want a floor spacing center, what floor spacing center are you going to get? There's just no realistic way to improve on this position. So for that reason, Jakob Poeltl, I don't really see why or how the trade would go down. I think he's very likely staying. I'd be shocked if Jakob Poeltl wasn't a Raptor to start next season, honestly. That's just not something that I see going down. He's a quality center. His playmaking, passing, screen setting is spacing the floor. Just because he can't shoot doesn't mean he can't space the floor in other ways. Very likely staying. Jordan Nwora, 50-50. I can see him fitting into a 12 to 15-man slot if he liked it here. His defense is just so bad. That's the problem. I like that he can play a lot of roles and he can get hot on offense. Defensively, there's issues. If he's playing on a day-to-day basis, a game-to-game basis, you probably respectfully made a mistake in your offseason and the way you've built your roster. But I kind of want it to go probably gone, but I will still go 50-50 for him. Kelly Olynyk just signed an extension. He's a lock. I don't see why the Raptors would trade him. Don't see the Raptors making a move for a superstar, a star in any way. They don't have the... Well, I guess they would have the pick flexibility potentially on the way. But even still, what would be the point? He really likes it here. He's a great vet for this team. I think Kelly Olynyk's pretty much a lock. Nothing more to it. Jalen McDaniels is a tough one. If I had my way... yeah, I don't have my way. The reality is he's on a 2-year contract. Second year of the contract coming up. $4.5 million. $4.5 million is not crippling enough of a contract to say that you absolutely have to move on from it or buy him out. You probably just suck it up for another year. So Jalen McDaniels, unfortunately, probably stays. I almost want to put him very likely, but I can see the Raptors trying to manufacture a way to get off that contract. Let me get the sun out of my face. Sunshine late in the day in Toronto. There we go. A bit better. Next, Javon Freeman-Liberty. So Javon Freeman-Liberty's contract situation is if he makes the Raptors roster after training camp, if he makes the Raptors final roster, he's guaranteed for the whole season. So the Raptors would have to feel confident enough in guaranteeing a full year of a contract for Javon Freeman-Liberty that they're going to give that to him over maybe signing somebody else on a cheaper, non-guaranteed deal. For that reason, he's probably gone. He has a chance to earn himself a spot. I don't think he particularly wowed anybody with his performances in the final stretch of the season. Not saying he was bad, but again, he's not really wowing you. Not a terrific defender, not a terrific shooter. Is there really a need for what should become the third point guard on the team to not have shooting or defense? I don't know. I don't really think so. I guess it will depend if the Raptors address the point guard depth on the team this summer, which they haven't done for 3 years, so maybe they don't do it again. But I'd be a little bit surprised if Freeman-Liberty made the roster for next year for the guaranteed contract that I've outlined just now. Mohamed Ugay is good for the Raptors on a 5. I don't see him staying. Very likely gone for me. We'll try to earn an NBA spot somewhere, but I think he's like 26 years old already. I just don't see him doing enough to earn himself a spot. You kind of want to root for these guys who've hustled to earn their opportunities, but unfortunately, I just don't really see enough talent there for him to get on the roster. For all these guys, like for a guy like him, for Freeman-Liberty, I love for them to rise up, prove me wrong, and have a great training camp and earn themselves a roster spot. But I just don't really see it. A bit of a shame. I just don't really see it though. Grady Dick is I want to put him as a lock, but yeah, I have to. Once again, I don't see the Raptors making a move for like a big star in the offseason. If they did, then Grady Dick might be a sweetener in that trade. Really don't see that move coming. Grady Dick performed very admirably towards the end of the season. From like the middle of the season onwards, once he found his footing, once he found his range, he was terrific. I have big hopes for Grady Dick. I'm sure the Raptors do as well. DJ Carton's an unfortunate one here. He got injured right after signing a 2-way contract, so we didn't really get a view of him. They liked him enough to give him a 2-way contract right out of a 10-day contract. So I'll go 50-50 here. he should have the opportunity to impress in training camp. And if he does, I guess the Raptors give him another chance on that two-way deal. Look good in those spells that he had on the court, even amidst the Raptors tank. Give an opportunity, and I think he's got a better chance than Mohamed Gay and Javon Freeman-Liberty of earning himself a roster spot. So DJ Carton, the milk carton, fits into 50-50. Bruce Brown, we just talked about him in length here, but I don't see any reason to let him walk. I struggle to see the Raptors trading him this summer. He's probably staying. I could see a sign and trade, but I see Raptors hanging on to him towards the next trade deadline and seeing what they can get there. Chris Boucher, he's got to be. You know what? We're not going to be as aggressive and put him gone. Very, very likely, though. You'll have to find somebody to take that, $12 million contract. But Darko does not like him. There were some games where the Raptors were ravaged with injuries in the absolute pit of the tank hell we endured, and he still would not give Chris Boucher minutes. Doesn't click. Chris Boucher, I'll commend him because I'll give him credit because he maintained professionalism throughout, but the Raptors are going to do everything possible, I think, to trade that contract in the summer. RJ Barrett's a lock. One of the biggest locks on here. He was tremendous for the Raptors. He's locked in on a big contract that teams aren't going to want to take on. Absolute lock. And he'd be the biggest lock if it weren't for Scotty Barnes. We're past the days of thinking, hey, should we have traded him for Kevin Durant? I never bought into that notion. Absolutely not. But that is the centerpiece. That is the superstar. We are building this team for him, around him. Ochai Agbaji, very likely staying. I mean, where is he going to go? Where is he going to get traded? What's going to happen to Ochai Agbaji? Nobody's going to come knocking. Raptors are going to be comfortable to hang on to him and try to work through development. As for gone, Malik Williams, his contract's up. He's gone. I mean, he's not going to be here. And I won't go too in for Malik's sake. We'll leave it at Malik Williams is not an NBA caliber player, and he made that abundantly obvious in pretty much every minute that he was on the floor for the Raptors this season. Sorry, Malik. But yeah, what do you guys think? How did I do? Who would you put in a different category? What did I get right? You guys got to let me know. I think it's going to be an interesting offseason regardless for the Raptors. And, you know, I can certainly see myself being wrong on a bunch of this stuff, but I can see myself being right too. Speaking of being wrong, today on Amateur Sports 2, as I try to get the sun on my face again, on Amateur Sports 2, I put out a Western Conference Power Rankings reaction video. I reacted to my power rankings from the start of the season. I did really well in the Eastern Conference, which I posted on Tuesday on the second channel. I did very poorly on the Western Conference, which I recommend checking out. Let's check on some of the chat here. If you guys don't know, I like to do this stuff live and get your takes in real time after the fact. But we also use a lot of this stuff for the Clips channel to get some additional exposure to it and content out there. So if I don't check the chat for like 5-10 minutes, it's because I'm in the zone for a video for my editor. Just a little Easter egg, I guess. You watch on. This sun is not getting out of my face. Come on. Just shining right down on me, man. Too early. Nah, I said earlier, I'm moving out of this apartment. I can't get blackout curtains. I have blackout curtains in my parents' house. Although these curtains are very tall, so I don't have. Anyways, I'm moving out soon, so not gonna buy anything for this. People like Boucher. Personally, my thoughts on Boucher are I love him when I love him. I hate it when I hate him. He can be so good. He can be so bad. And you never know what you're going to get. Alex Lee says, if the Leafs lose tonight, you think they break the core up? No, because, like, you can't. Austin Matthews is one of the best players in the league, so you're not trading him. Mitch Marner makes too much money to get traded, so you can't trade him. Nylander makes... what's Nylander's salary? But Nylander's really fucking good at hockey, so you don't want to trade him. What's your 8 years, $92 million? Is that... 11.5. That's a lot of money, but he's really good. But that's a lot of money. That's tough to trade him. I don't think you can break up the core. The core is very good. Like, let's make no mistake. The core is very good. The question marks are always that do they perform in the playoffs, which granted fair because they continue to not perform in the playoffs and not succeed in the playoffs. Unfortunately for the Leafs, they've never had like a rock solid defensive. I'm not a big hockey guy, but to me, watching the playoffs every year, they have not found a rock solid defensive core to work with in the playoffs to solidify things. And every single playoff series they've been in this era, they have had the inferior goaltender, rather. They had better goaltending last year against Vasilevsky because he wasn't that good, and the Leafs power play was on fire against Tampa last year. 1 of 16 this year. So, to me, like, get a good coach, sort out the fucking power play, get a better D-core and goalie before you worry about breaking up the core of amazing talent you have. But I'm not super in tune with the Leafs, so that's just my opinion as a casual fan. But I don't know. It's really hard to make a team with as much talent as this. It'd be hard to do it again. Goes to Bobby Webster interview instead of more research. What are we talking? Oh, people are fighting in chat. Have it out. Jonte Porter lock screen. What are we talking about? What? Oh, Jonte Porter lock in. No, Jonte Porter's not even. Jonte Porter's not on the. Jonte Porter's banned from the NBA. So. Fantasy says, I found a picture of a handsome-looking cat on Reels that very much resembles me. Check my DM soon. By the way, guys, I get DMs on TikTok sometimes. I never check my TikTok DMs. If you want me to answer you, DM me on my personal Instagram account or my personal Twitter account. If you DM me on the amateur hour Instagram, I don't check that very often, which I should, but I don't because I just don't think about it. DM me on my personal Instagram or Twitter. I do not really check TikTok or Instagram on the channel pages, by the way. Johnny Porter's a lock for DraftKings. Johnny Porter's a lock for under three-pointers made. All right. 6:44 here. Going to go for about 50 more minutes here. Hopefully the rent in your new place is reasonable. Yeah, actually, me and my girlfriend were astonished by the real estate currently in Toronto in a good way. It was pretty crazy when we were looking last year. We're finding a lot of great places in our budget to potentially move into. So we were stressed out about it. Now we're not. We feel like we're going to find a great spot to live. Moving in the next 6 months at some point. Yeah, my landlord, the person who owns this apartment goes to school in England. They rented out this apartment while they were at school in England. Did not know that when we got the place. So anyways, they're moving back in, coming back to Canada, and therefore we are booted from the apartment. How's dinner? I didn't eat dinner yet. I knew you'd ask, but I was watching darts until about 5:30, and then I just decided to have a little snack and have dinner after the stream. Dinner will be leftover tacos from the Tuesday stream in which you asked me what I was having for dinner. Yesterday's dinner was Mandarin takeout. That was lovely. I've been craving some shitty Chinese takeaway. Truthfully, new layout stream. Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed. I really like the stream layout in here. I really like the video layout. I'm really comfortable in here. I just everything really fits in here. So hopefully I can find a spot where that's still the case. But I've always made it work. I made it work at home in my bedroom. I made it work in the basement in my parents' house. I made it work in my student house when I was in school. I'll make it work again. I find a way. Tacos. Hit that taco for resign for IQ. What? I don't understand. I think the Raptors will be a playoff team next year. I think they'll be a play-in team, which could turn them into a playoff team. But I think they should be in the hunt to make the playoffs. Trade Brown for 2 second-rounders. I'd say you can get probably a first-round pick for next year. I think hanging on to him is just the right way to go. Who's my favorite Leaf? I mean, Austin Matthews is just the best Leaf in my lifetime, probably in many people's lifetimes. Austin Matthews is just so fucking good at hockey that I guess it has to be him. I'm at the age, I don't know. I mean, most of you guys are older than me who watch this, so I say I'm at the age. I'm at the age where I don't really have favorite players anymore. I just like the team. You know what I mean? And if you're really good on my team, I like you. I still like Lowry. I still like Siakam. They don't play here. I really did like Siakam. Maybe Siakam was always my favorite player alongside Kyle Lowry. Is new busing. What? I have no idea what that is. I'm sorry. Anyways, final little piece I wanted to cover from today's stream. Any other questions? Fire them in. 10 or so minutes to go here. I'm going to wrap up this segment, answer the final questions, then go have my dinner. But I came across recently another Toronto Raptors mock trade that made me very confused because we cannot keep doing this. Okay, guys? We got to stop with all this. We cannot keep going on in this direction. We keep getting linked to him, keep getting linked to this player. Andrew Wiggins is not coming to Toronto. It's not happening. We're always linked to him. It's always a possibility in trades. It's been for years. First it was Siakam getting traded to the Warriors for Wiggins and Wiseman. There's been ones before that when he was with the Timberwolves. There's been this now, where the Raptors could be landing Andrew Wiggins in a trade this summer. This article comes from Raptors Rapture, who is merely just reporting on the mock trade. I will make that aware. They are not coming up with this trade here. I believe so, at least. I believe it was a Bleacher Report mock trade. Yes, a Bleacher Report mock trade, which showcases Andrew Wiggins ending up on the Toronto Raptors. Guys, we get it. Andrew Wiggins is Canadian. The Toronto Raptors are a Canadian basketball team. We get it. It doesn't mean Andrew Wiggins is ending up with the Raptors. But the layout of this trade is at least plausible to some degree. In the past, we've had these mock trades where Andrew Wiggins is horrifically overvalued as a player, and he's coming off of a horrendous season. The Warriors trying to extend this Steph Curry era as long as possible. I think rather foolishly. They're trying to extend it as long as possible. I guess I can understand where they are coming from. And getting off of Andrew Wiggins' contract may be the way they want to go, especially with all of these strict salary cap implications coming to play. So what this trade would look like is simply the Toronto Raptors receive a 2026 protected second-round pick. Golden State Warriors receive a 2026 protected second-round pick. We'll cut that out. The Golden State Warriors receive a 2026 protected second-round pick. The Toronto Raptors receive Andrew Wiggins. Essentially, you're just taking on Andrew Wiggins for free. You get a useless draft pick. We get Andrew Wiggins to play for our team. Sounds like, hey, you add talent to the team. Andrew Wiggins is an okay player. Why not take on that Andrew Wiggins contract for free? Well, I'll tell you why you don't want to take on the Andrew Wiggins contract for free. They should feel so lucky in Golden State if we were to take on Andrew Wiggins for free. Because take a look at this contract situation. I don't know what Andrew Wiggins was dealing with on a personal level where he missed so much time, but he had that. He's been dealing with injuries. He is not the same player he was when the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship and he was the second best player in that series. He is not the guy hauling in 10 rebounds per game, shooting the ball well from three, playing stellar defense. He is just not that guy anymore. He just wasn't that guy at all for this season. And, we've had a lot of sample size kind of suggesting that it's not really going to come back either. Like, I'm not saying the stats are horrific here, but he's dropped down to 13 points per game from this year. That's the lowest of his career. Shot the ball 45% from the field, 36% from three. Like, that's decent. I get it. 51% effective field goal percentage. But it's clear that he's not the same player. Defensively, he doesn't move as well. Not the same level over there. And on top of that, and what looks like we have a declining player, this is just a very difficult contract to work with. Got signed off the back of a championship. I get why they did it. But he's making $26 million next season. Then 28, then has a player option worth $30 million, which you'd be hard-pressed to convince me Andrew Wiggins is not going to take on. That's a lot of money to commit for a Raptors team wanting to build on what was a very disappointing season. The way about rebuilding this team is not investing, quick math, 85 to $90 million on Andrew Wiggins. $27 million a year. 80 something. Mid-$80 million over 3 years on Andrew Wiggins. It's not the way that you go about rebuilding this team. So, every year we will have these conversations about Andrew Wiggins. I'm sure to the end of time, Andrew Wiggins will be linked with these Toronto Raptors at some point. But, yeah, this offseason, it's just not really worth taking that on. The Warriors, if the Warriors want to trade Andrew Wiggins, look, this is what they're going to have to do. We saw last season with a player of Jordan Poole's caliber, who, granted had a horrific season with the Washington Wizards as a whole. What they had to do to get rid of Jordan Poole was give up assets to trade Jordan Poole. We're not doing you favors here. We're not saying, we'll take him. Sure, we'll put him on our team. This is not a charity. This is a business. This is a corporation. This is the National Basketball Association. If you want us to take on Andrew Wiggins, you're going to have to pay for it. Like, it's not just going to be a charity case here. If you want to get rid of Andrew Wiggins, you're going to have to shell out some draft picks to make it happen. Now, I don't know. Let me see exactly what the future draft picks actually look like for Golden State. But if there is a desire from the Golden State Warriors to get off the Andrew Wiggins contract, it's going to cost some draft picks here. And what they have as far as draft picks, they cannot trade their 2029 first. They can trade their 2028 first. And honestly, the way the Golden State Warriors are trending, that could be a pretty spicy first-round pick to take. In fact, they have their pick in 25 and 26 and 27 and 28. I don't know if you're getting 2 first-round picks, but if you can get some assets on top of a first-round pick, then all of a sudden we're having a conversation about it. But I think even then, the Warriors probably want to use those picks to bring in more talent, not just get off a contract. So for me, the Andrew Wiggins saga, it's hilarious and rattling at the same time. At the end of the day, he is Canadian. We know that. We very much know that. I think at the end of the day, at some point in Andrew Wiggins' career, there's a possibility he signed for the Raptors. But as far as ending up on the Raptors, it's not going to happen in the next 3 years. It's not going to happen on that contract. If it does happen next 3 years, it's because he's bought out somewhere. And perhaps he gets an opportunity with the Raptors. The Raptors just add him in. Perhaps he wants to play for his hometown team. Whatever the story may be, I can very much see Andrew Wiggins ending up on the Raptors one day. I do not see them in 2024 shelling out assets in order to make it happen, nor do I see them being a charity and just paying the contract instead of the Golden State Warriors having to do that. Just makes no sense. Just makes no sense. But do you want to see it? Would you do it? You got to let me know. I certainly wouldn't. Anyways. He should have played with the Raptors when he was good. You know, he wasn't that good for a lot of his career. He shot everything. Every shot he got, he took. He was an inefficient player. One of the great examples of scaling down his role for a contender and being more effective. The Aaron Gordon thing where scale down, just become really good at what you do as a role player. Andrew Wiggins did that, got himself a big contract, started an NBA All-Star game because some Korean artist tweeted about him. True story. And yeah, he's built a great NBA career. Maybe not first overall pick, what you'd think, but he's built a tremendous NBA career. He's an NBA champion. He's an all-star. Maybe he'll play with the Raptors someday, but no, not on that contract. No, thank you, buddy. Gary, 4 years, 60s fair. I think that's a little low. I'd be over the moon with that contract. I think that's a little low. I think we're more so probably going to feel it 65 to 70 range is where we're going to be, which is, it's not far off, but I think we're going to be closer to 70 if we make it happen. That's where it goes, in my opinion. All right. Last stretch here. Thank you guys for tuning in to this first real Raptors offseason stream. Not a watch party. Actually, one of the games has already begun, but ending it all here. Wrapping it up. Yeah, I knew we'd get one comment like that saying stick to hockey by wearing hockey. I don't know hockey, nor do I claim to know hockey. Just we had a playoff game today. Wanted to show my support to the Buds. Hopefully, they don't make it too disappointing. But God, they could really ruin things with a game 7 at least. When is a game 7? When would that be actually? Saturday at 8. Damn. I bought TFC tickets, not thinking that the Leafs would get there. Well, we'll play it as it goes, as far as the Maple Leafs Game 7. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Next time, we'll keep it more civil in the chat. I'm going to go have dinner, get myself ready for the playoffs, the Game 6. Hope you all enjoyed the stream. If you did, hit that like button. I didn't ask it all the stream. If you enjoyed, hit that fucking like button and support the content we do. And I'll see you guys again next time over here.